Up until about 5 years ago, I had no idea how to cook anything. And I had no interest, frankly, in learning how. What I liked to do was go out to eat. I was all about cheap, convenient foods. Frozen burritos, fast food, those were my kind of meals. That was until I discovered that eating that way really wasn't so cheap and convenient after all, because it was destroying my health. In 2002, I was 25 years old when I came down with what I thought was the flu. I had body aches, I was extremely fatigued, and I was really weak. But this went on not just for 3 to 7 days, went on for weeks and weeks, and I kept going back to my doctor. Eventually they ran tests for strep and for mono. They kept giving me antibiotic after antibiotic, and they just couldn't figure out what was wrong, and nothing they did for me seemed to help whatsoever. Over the next few years, my health really just kept deteriorating. Any day I woke up, I never knew which symptoms I was going to be battling that day. And I just was in pain everywhere. I was very tender to the touch. It felt as if my whole body was bruised, basically. I had this ongoing fatigue all of the time. Many days it would be all I could do to just get up, get out of bed, take my shower, and get dressed. And by the time I did that, I was too exhausted to go and do whatever I had planned to go and do. And no one ever figured these things out. Again, I kept going back to doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist, and they would give me pain medication, and nothing really ever worked. I had shooting pains, tingling, numbness, and burning sensations across my shoulders, down my upper arms, and up my neck. I had already been to so many doctors and so many specialists. Even a neurologist, for crying out loud, couldn't figure out why I had tingling and numbness. I'd been on countless prescription medications, and they had done endless tests and diagnostics and found nothing. So I really kind of lost hope that anybody was going to figure anything out. About a year after my initial symptoms developed, the doctors finally did find a diagnosis for me. They sent me to a rheumatologist, and they diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. They just prepared me for the medical fact that I would have to live with all of these symptoms for the rest of my life. Luckily, a couple of years later, I happened upon a book that changed my life forever. But I'm just going to share with you the particular messages that we took from this book and made changes in our life. The first thing that kind of hit us hard was he talks about everywhere you look, you see people who are sick, tired, overweight, or in some sort of pain. And we've just gotten to the point where we think this is just normal. And it is normal because most people are feeling this way, but it's not natural. It means something's wrong. If you're not feeling well, something is wrong. And he talked a lot in his book about many of these problems stem from what we're putting into our mouths. I guess even without knowing it, I took my health for granted. Thought when something went wrong, I just go to the doctor, he's my mechanic, and he'll just fix me up and send me on my way. And that had always worked for me until now. So then he said, if you want to feel well, prevent cancer and other diseases, then you have to stop eating all this toxic nonsense that's in our food that didn't exist 100 to 150 years ago. Our bodies are just not designed to process the stuff like high fructose corn syrup, artificial sweeteners, MSG, trans fat, artificial colors, artificial flavors. I never knew that was in food. I never even knew there was something in food for me to think about. I didn't give any thought to it, but this book really opened up our eyes. So I decided I better start to learn how to cook. It was a wake-up call. We realized that we had just been totally apathetic about what we were putting in our bodies. And then we realized that what we were eating really wasn't even food. We started scrutinizing the ingredients labels on everything in our kitchen, which we had never bothered to look at before. And we realized we did not know what any of those words meant. I don't know what polysorbate 80 is. I don't know what hexametaphosphate is. But that's what I was putting into my body. Things with ingredients lists this long. We were just standard American junk food junkies. So we stopped eating things unless we could easily identify every ingredient as having come from a plant or animal in nature. That was rule number 1. And within 3 months of making those changes, I realized all of those symptoms I talked about earlier were gone. Totally gone. And not only were my symptoms of the fibromyalgia gone, I felt better and had more energy than pretty much anybody that I ever would meet. If you picture food choices along a continuum, in fact, on this end we have pre-packaged foods that are created in a factory somewhere, and on this end we've got whole, natural, chemical-free foods like the lettuce I grow in my garden. It just makes sense that the closer, I'm not saying you have to be 100% all the time or extreme, but the closer you get to this end, the better off your body is going to be. The other advantage of being on this end is that you're taking the power into your own hands. You're not relying on these companies and industries who have their own self-interest and profits, as they would be expected to. That's what they have in mind, not your well-being. So you get over here, you're taking better control of your health. So like I mentioned, we cook everything at home from scratch. And don't feel sorry for us, because we've figured out ways to make a lot of delicious things. Even this non-cook over here. Took a lot of practice. We had some meals we had to take for the team, as my husband says, so they didn't get wasted. For breakfast, I had to let go of my Fruit Loops and my Egg McMuffins, and now we make things like homemade oatmeal or scrambled eggs, fried eggs, fruit smoothies. And I had to let go of the Milk Duds and my addictive trips to Cold Stone. Now we make our own treats and snacks at home from scratch. We make pudding, granola bars, cookies, ice cream. And I don't want to be overwhelming anyone, so again, keep in mind this continuum, that just the more you make choices that get you to this side, the better. I kind of started on a crusade to inform as many people as I could about these hidden additives and the sneaky tactics that the food industry uses. One of them, MSG is what we're going to really focus on, but I just want to mention a few others first. One of them is the word natural. The food companies realize that y'all are onto them and you don't want to be eating all these chemicals and man-made things, and you don't trust them so much anymore. And they know you want to eat natural things. They can put the word natural on the front of any package. It's not a regulated term. Just ignore it and look what's in the ingredients list. The additive that ticked me off the most was the MSG. And when I started reading about it, I learned that it's hidden on ingredients labels under dozens and dozens of other names. They can put no MSG on the front of a package, and it could contain 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 of these other ingredients that contain this MSG product, which I'll explain in a minute. That's what causes health problems. It's an excitotoxin. It overstimulates your taste buds, which is what makes food taste good. That's why they put it in there. It's a flavor enhancer. But it also disrupts your nervous system. There's many hidden names, and I have a packet for you up here when you leave if you want to grab one. And one of the sheets is, first, some of the common symptoms of MSG. And there's also a sheet in there about the hidden names for MSG. Like I said, there's dozens and dozens of other ingredient names that have MSG. I just brought some examples so you can see what I'm talking about when you go to the grocery store and where some of these things are hidden. And most of these things here, as you'll see, actually have the pure monosodium glutamate in them. All right, so when I'm telling you to eat, more on this side of the continuum, you would probably guess this would be something you would not choose. So it has the trans fat hidden issue, like I already talked about. It also has pure monosodium glutamate. And like I mentioned, this is what I'm saying, how there's plenty of other hidden MSG words too, like yeast extract, spice, natural and artificial flavor. Those are all in here. And those are just the MSG words. There's other additives in here too, like corn syrup, partially hydrogenated oil. So you see bananas and strawberries on the front, right? You're gonna get a little bit of your daily fruit intake, but there's no fruit in here. Artificial colors and fake flavoring. You wanna stay away from words like that, because again, you're back on this side of the continuum trusting the food industry that whatever they're whipping up in their lab is okay for you, and they're not even telling you what the heck is in it. So maybe for breakfast, you forget about the Fruit Loops. You're gonna make some homemade pancakes. You put a little butter on there, and then you get some syrup to dump on there, because syrup's just syrup, right? Syrup comes from a tree. They put it in a bottle and send it to the grocery store. That's what I always assumed. This just says dry roasted peanuts, and they just look like peanuts. They're not any funky color or anything weird. Dry roasted, so there's not even gonna be any oil. Sounds really healthy. You would not think, based on the front of this package, that all that garbage in there. And this could have been my pantry 5 years ago. These are all things that I typically ate. And if your diet looks anything like the things that I used to eat, then I hope that I've empowered you at least a little bit today to start doing some of your own research and being a little more conscious about what you're putting into your body. I'm not a doctor, like I said. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a person who got my health back from doing my own research and following a path that just seemed to make intuitive sense to me.